Welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. The show will begin momentarily.
Yeah. Young Satoshi. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Dragonchain, 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 Dragonchain. Mine 10 blocks on the blockchain. My ETH father for the got paid. These dragons selling like they hotcakes. We go to the moon like we don't got breaks. If you want to transact on a marketplace, Dragonchain, Dragonchain, Dragonchain. Dragonchain, 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 Dragonchain. Mine 10 blocks on the blockchain. My ETH father for the got paid. These dragons selling like they hotcakes. We going to the moon like we don't got breaks. If you want to transact on a marketplace, Dragonchain, Dragonchain, Dragonchain. My ETH costs more than your rent. I saw my life savings get a 10. Dragons get the hottest coming next. Me and Joe Rose make a bet. All this shit seem new to me. Fix the blockchain with security. Keeping data safe is the fluency. How could you not fuck with the company?
All right, welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. This is the Dragonchain Update Show, and it's episode 77. That is 0xf7. It's the 248th weekly episode with AMA. Reminder, nothing on the show is financial advice, and stay tuned after all of the updates for the weekly AMA. First up in Dragonchain updates, last week's distribution of Super Happy Dragon Lucky lot for governance of the show created 566 lot. There were 3 questions for 93 lot each. There was one featured post. There were no featured posts. The host received 93 lot and Dragonchain received 190 lot. I think that's all correct. Next, we have Den.Social updates. So the May 2024 LCP proposal phase starts next Tuesday. So make sure you watch for the post to make your proposal. And in DenDAO updates, we have a new format. So make sure you go see the post in the DenDAO layer and make any comments, suggestions, and we'll try to get answers there. So let's see here. We're not having the DenDAO show anymore, or at least now. It'll be on demand. So if we need a show, we can have it. But so let's see here. Dayrox asks if we can take some time to discuss the basics of DRAKARIA and what we would need to pass the quiz positively. It's probably not a DenDAO thing, but we could at least cover the Den part of how governance is going to work. Maybe that would be a good thing to talk about. So maybe we can talk about that on, trying to think when we could fit that in. We need to do that though. So we'll either do that here or somewhere else. And maybe if there's a question in the AMA, we can cover it there as well. Also, so now, let's go to World Blockchain Roundtable updates. In case you missed it last week, last week's episode was sort of subverting corrupt governments with blockchain. Make sure you go watch and share it. It's really a really good show. There was a lot of good info on it. And the more views it gets the first week, the more all the participants will get, including, of course, the people who ask the questions. So go do that. And this week, in about 55 minutes or so at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC, we have reordered the roundtable shows. Somebody called an audible, and so we essentially are going to, I think it was going to be the 4th week. We're going to do it now because of current events. That was Bitcoin hijacked, and is Roger Ver correct? Episode 154. Make sure you get in there and ask some questions if you are able. Thank you. Already looks like there's a good set of questions in here, a bunch. So we will, anybody who gets a question aired will get credit. We can probably get through all those, I would hope. So thanks for all of that. And Drakaria updates. Thanks for watching and sharing all the updates that have been going on. The gateway keys are coming, and I've made a little bit of progress on the blockchain section, which has some interesting stuff. I just want to make sure that it is thorough and essentially, make sure that it has everything in there. And we'll get that out soon. Hopefully, that'll be out by next week, and we can show you that here. Also, an informal update. We are getting close. We have some of the last artwork with some of the 3D scenes is being finished in these next couple of weeks, and we're getting the website in place, at least to a first draft form. And if it's good enough, we'll go ahead and open it up. And I'm trying to think what else. I mean, the potential to accept other forms of currency like US dollars and things like that is all in the works. The design is done. The implementation is starting. So hopefully it'll be pretty soon that we'll get to see all of those eggs being spawned. So next I will go, let's see here, while I refresh the tab for episode 77. The AMA is now here, and every participant with a unique question will get lot from the Dragonchain layer for governance of Super Happy Dragon Lucky, this show, this program. And if you get multiple questions in, I'll still answer them if I'm able, and but you will only get credit for one. I reserve also the right to revise and extend my remarks, just like all of those traders do in Congress. First question, Oxons. Was it ever thought of creating an interface within the console, Dragonchain console, to manage, organize, or transfer time between different accounts? By signing and authenticating a user profile with several wallets, it would be quite simple. It's possible. All of the time system was developed to be purely with the token itself, so not externalized, not separated. So if you look into the way that the time transfer works on chain, it is essentially a 2 or 3 step process where you send your coin to your dragon chain, your dragons to the new address. Let's say you had it in an insecure wallet, and now you're going to put it in a hardware wallet that is more secure. You would, and I'll probably get this wrong because it is a few steps, and don't follow what I'm saying if you're doing it. But just to illustrate the point, you move your dragons to the new address, you send them back to the old address from which you want to transfer your time, and then from that old address you send it to the fee address, where, and I think it's only 25 dragons or something similar, where the time system knows to follow that. So anybody in the world could calculate the time on their own, but that is how a time transfer works. So, and you can't move part of the time, and that was for economic reasons, and some of which is, and I think I did look at the questions before. I do believe there's a question here about the meaning of that, the reason for that design. So I'll get to that then. But essentially, this is possible, and we have thought of it. We have considered it. We just have to be very careful that it wouldn't upset the balance, the economy, the economic balance. Which, and I say economic, it's not. It's nothing to do with the possibility of trading or selling or speculating on time. It is more that the reason that time exists is as a security and a scalability mechanism. And I will get to that answer when I do believe it's one of the questions coming up. So that was a great question. Excellent question. Thank you very much. Perfect question. I am 4am has a question. I don't want to do the same mistake twice. Den question. What attempts have been made to grow Den users but failed, and why? One of them would have been, and I don't know if this was, really an attempt purely to grow Den, but there is a layer that was created for the LCP that was supposed to be people. The intent was that we would work on ways to grow Den in that, and so far it hasn't worked. But maybe it's because we haven't been really using it as intended. So I don't think it's a fault of the people who proposed it, the person or people, or the people who participated in that. But maybe we could use that better. And if you have ideas for that, let me know where we could organize better. We've had a few attempts that failed before they actually happened, that were on the inside, that we had ideas for partners, and they just never happened. We've had a few things like that. We've had we tried at one point to partner with a group that was going to use Den for I guess you'd call them creators, influencers, creators, people on YouTube, people on Instagram, and it could have worked well. There were maybe a little bit, maybe some disagreement, but also I think a lot of it was just the budgets on both sides not quite there to do what we really would have done, if we were Facebook or something like that and had all the money in the world. But that's one of the things that could have worked. One of the things that hasn't happened yet that I've talked about, that I do think there is a growing need for, and it could be a full pivot. It could be a pivot for Den that wouldn't affect any of the current actual uses of it. Everybody could still be doing what they're doing, but that would be the integration of advanced DAO functionality, where we have very simple DAOs in the layers. We have some more custom, like Sticky DAO has a layer that I think if they would have had a better launch, that it would have probably worked out. But timing was not with them, and they're still doing things right. But a lot of the stuff planned didn't happen there. Den DAO itself is a complex DAO that is behavior based. We've written articles on Cointelegraph. It's gotten attention, and there's still people that ask about that when I talk to people who are more academic. And also Drakaria itself is going to have a behavior focused, behavior based DAO as well. It'll be hybrid, much like Den DAO is, where there are various roles that you could come in and compete for influence, or the ability to affect what happens with Drakaria. And that will all be launched and hosted on Den, and it'll be a phased launch. And the existing DAO for Drakaria is already on Den. It's in a private layer right now. We talked about that. We want to go into that details there, but we that will be public. It just isn't, because there are how do I say, there are things that are secret about the project that are open in that layer. So we either have to make a new layer and just move everything to that, and then release the other one after all the spoilers won't be spoilers anymore, or something else. We'll figure that out. But the reason I say this is, if we added two simple things, integration with GitHub, we would be able to, I think, dominate and help frankly, open source governance tremendously. The second would be the ability to plug it into a multi-sig wallet, like what was used to be Gnosis, and I think it's safe.io now, something like that, where essentially your DAO would be able to release funds directly with signatures and everything. And then there are a couple of other small points as well that would fit into those areas that I think would really be a game changer for DAOs, which, things like plugging rewards into the GitHub, which are also part of the DAO, vote. It would be purely to vote, but it would essentially fix a lot of the problems that a lot of projects, including, as an example, if you want to watch a World Blockchain Roundtable later, as Bitcoin did with governance. So anyway, great question. Let me vote on it. Let me vote on it. Live voting. Original, yes. Question, yes. Den, yes, it is Den. Okay, Aladita. Hello, Dragon family. I hope everyone is doing good. It's a very pleasant and relaxing gift. Thank you. Question. What was the pure technical reasoning behind the idea of time for consensus mechanism on DragonNet, besides loyalty and behavior tracking and safety of dragons from centralized exchanges? Thanks. Okay, so a real quick bit of history. Time was originally introduced in 2017. I can't remember the date we announced it, but it was the already existing, already live measure of how long a single dragon had stayed in an address, or I guess more precisely, how many dragons had stayed in address for how many days, right? And it was originally called Dragon Days of Slumber, or DDS. And then when we had we wanted to refine it a little bit, we called it DDSS, which was Dragon Days of Slumber Score, because it was just a score. We wanted people to understand, no confusion. It is a score, and you could call it reputation, you could call it longevity, you could call it courage, you could call it several things. But what it essentially did is measure a distinct and completely transparent behavior that was fully on chain for people that weren't even on Dragonchain or didn't even understand our architecture, as many still do not. And it essentially gave us a measure for several things. So a couple of them you mentioned, which are super important and probably the easiest for most people to understand. Loyalty. Now it's a loyalty score, right? Behavior tracking, right? And safety of dragons from centralized exchanges. I mean, effectively, one of the big behavior components was to incentivize people to get their dragons onto a hardware wallet or some safe place that they controlled, not sitting on an exchange, right? We did this for a number of reasons. If anybody goes back, dials themselves back to 2016, 2017, 2018, and how many exchanges lost funds for their users. And, it's in the end, the exchange is responsible because of the way they did things. And obviously the attacker, whoever stole them, is responsible. Sometimes it was an inside job, right? We think, who knows? But of all the people who were in crypto, no one who was actually using crypto the way intended, number one, and the way and for its unique utility lost anything, right? And as we saw that, we were like, we need to find a way to give people reason beyond just telling them don't keep your stuff on exchanges, it's dangerous. I mean, you can say that till you're blue in the face and people will still do it because it was convenient, and they didn't have to actually understand the fact that they could hold that crypto. I mean, I bought stuff from Mt. Gox back in the day. And, I used it, I gave it away, I did stuff with it, but I never lost it when Mt. Gox was there. And it blew my mind that all these crypto people, and in fact, people who were very well known in the crypto world, could have left so much on Mt. Gox. And it wasn't because I didn't trust Mt. Gox. In fact, the more that's there, the less I would trust anyone who might be working at an exchange or something. It's a big honeypot, right? There's a ton of money there. So those were super. Those were huge. But what you're asking about, sorry, it's a really long answer, was the pure technical reasoning behind the idea of time for a consensus mechanism. So I'll explain it real quick, then I'll tell you the reasoning, right? So essentially, when you're on DragonNet, time is a massive component of I'll say economy again, but it's a behavior economy. So don't think of it in terms of money. It's a measured thing where if I'm running a node, I'm running an L2, I'm running an L3, I'm running a notary node, that the more time I have, the better I will compete against anyone else running nodes on that network, right? So, and it's an interesting thing. This is on purpose. It's a matrix, I guess, where when a business puts a transaction on its own blockchain, Dragonchain blockchain L1, that transaction is included in a block. So every 5 seconds, if there are any transactions, a block is created. That block, and let's say that block contained 100 transactions for 1 penny each worth of Dragon. So it's all in Dragons, right? The business, and it's I guess I should explain, it's a tokenized micro license in case certain people are watching. It's a tokenized micro license, and that micro license gives you the ability to essentially pay the node operators to include your or to sign your block, right? So that you can get level 2 is validation, level 3 is diversity, to check that the validators actually validated. Level 4 is a notary, and level 5 is the checkpointing, or including it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Binance or BNB, whatever else. So we have that, and let's say that the business has put 100 transactions, and I'll tell you how that works in a second, which cost them, let's say it's 1 Dragon each, so it's 100 Dragons. Much simpler to think that. Now I have 3 L2s that have to validate those that block, and they don't have the transaction data. All they have is the network data. So I can't see, if I'm running an L2, I can't see the business's proprietary data. Let's say it's there's some healthcare info in there. I don't get any of that. All I get is some transactional headers, and I can validate that everything is sound about this transaction. So the security component of it. I sign that, I send it back. 2 other L2s do the same. They all have time attached or assigned or committed to, or so you could say staked, but it's not really staking. It's different enough to that L2 node. The block also goes to an L3 node to check the L2 nodes did their job. That L3 node has time attached to it. It gets sent back. Then the block gets sent to an L4 node. It has time attached to it. It gets sent back, and then they get sent to an L5 node, which might or might not have time attached to it. In fact, you could run any of these nodes with 0 time. You just aren't going to get any rewards. And Dragonchain runs, for example, a few L5s, all of which have 0 time attached because, it is essentially for the network, right? And so that time, though, when all is said and done, let's say there are 100 dragons. If you took all of the time for all of the 3L2 nodes, the 1L3, the 1L4, and the 1L5 node, let's say that totally there was 100 million time attached to it. Let's say your L2 had only 1 million time. You would get 1% of the 100 dragons. You get 1 dragon. If your L3 had 10 million time attached to it, you would get 10%. So essentially, you get a proportional share of that block's rewards based upon how much time you have, right? On the other side, the business itself has a I don't know if it's called a time chart, but either way, it's when you are configuring that business node and when you are attaching time, similar to how you would attach it for a valid verification node, that time will affect the cost of a single transaction. So, at 0 time, I think it might be approximately 50 cents worth of dragon. I'll have to look, something like that. It might be $1, can't remember. And at when you go more and more time in the millions and then in the billions, you can make the fees per transaction extremely low. So apologies, this is a very, very big subject, but and we have a patent on this because it's a pretty remarkable I guess I'd say discovery, innovation. Let's call it an innovation. And in fact, we had a couple of different angles for how we wanted it to work that were based upon a couple of other things that other blockchains do, and none of them worked for scalability. We already knew that our platform Dragonchain was technically scalable. That is, and I make a differentiation because technical scalability, and there might be a better word for it, I don't know, is the ability to jam as many transactions into a block as possible, to get as much throughput as possible, to get to do all types of what you think of as the technical things that would apply even for a non-blockchain project. And we knew that from working at Disney. In fact, we were pleasantly surprised with some of the systems that we put out, expecting what was the Disney private blockchain platform at the time to fall over because we plugged in some of their bigger systems to it, and it didn't. And so we were happy with that. We kept improving it, and the thing that we didn't have was economic scalability, because it was a totally different question inside of Disney, as you can imagine, that when we applied a tokenized micro license so that the entire network wouldn't have to be built by every single project, right? So that you could essentially share stuff. The community can help by doing some of the verifications. We needed a balance, and this, and I've explained it in the past. I haven't had to talk about this in a long time, so apologies for it taking so long. But in the past, I've described it as if you look at how every other blockchain network works, and that's every one of them that I could think of. Maybe I'm, and who knows? It's a new day. There might be something out there now that might fit this as well. But every single one of them is based on scarcity of hardware, right? And there could be some other, scarcity of action, scarcity of token. But even Ethereum, even with proof of stake, you do have a token scarcity, obviously, as part of that component, but you still have to run a piece of hardware. And that piece of hardware has to be able to sign with, and I don't even, I don't know some of the architecture of Ethereum's proof of stake, so I don't want to say too much here about it. But essentially, everything, and even if you go back to original Satoshi, one CPU, one vote, it was supposed to be, and it ended up being not CPUs, ended up being ASICs, ended up advancing several other ways. But essentially, his method of consensus, which was so powerful for creating blocks, was that miners had to produce hash power. And that the way you prove that you produce hash power is by providing an output that would be extremely hard to get if you didn't run through all trillions of guesses, essentially. So given that, we decided to make a separate thing the point of scarcity. That is, we were talking about using microservices, for example, and our dilemma was that because we weren't going to have proof of work for these business chains, or for the way that the network would do the verification, that we wouldn't do proof of work. We had what was called context based verification, was our consensus protocol, and it amounts to having multiple different contextual looks at what this block has in it. And that came out of enterprise. The fact that you would have a enterprise architecture group, for example, needing to have some type of oversight over all the systems in enterprise. And this was one of the ways that they could have flexibility in adding new ways to verify what they needed to verify. If some new regulation came out, if some new something from the board, they wanted something in their systems. So we flipped it on its head and said that the time itself, which is something that is measurable, transparent, unmanipulatable, and requires patience. It's not something you can do overnight if you want to attack the network. And so I think, frankly, even though security is a massive component of it, loyalty, things like beta programs. So that's how you get into the early beta programs at Dragonchain were all based upon your time score, but at the time DDSS. So I do think that the most important innovation related to time is what I call, to go all the way back to the beginning, instead of technical scalability, it is economic scalability. And we've proven it several times. And the most significant was when we ran 24 hours worth of high volume transactions through the operational network, where you could essentially see that Dragonchain could handle, I think it was 140 or 150%, but it might have been more than that, of Visa's, or the Visa Global Payments Network daily volume. And so we essentially surpassed that just to demonstrate that this, not like a short period of time. Obviously, a lot of projects can do that. This was over a 24-hour span, and every transaction was successful, and every transaction made it all the way to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I can't remember what other we might have been on Ethereum Classic as well back then. So at the same time, when we say economic scalability, the transaction cost for every transaction in that demonstration did not budge, did not change. The transactions that every other chain put out there, at the time, I can't remember if Den was around then, but at the time, like Eternal, and all the other chains. I think the coffee chain was on there, and a couple other things live at the time. No other project saw any change in their fixed transaction costs, right? So their businesses did not have to adjust because we were doing this crazy thing, or something like what happened when CryptoKitties came out, or when certain things happen on Ethereum or Bitcoin now, that it kills every other application because they're not economically scalable. So that's what time does. That's why it's so important. That's why it's so interesting. And I think that's why it's patented as well. So anyway, excellent question. I need to vote on that. And I'm going to say that, that's a great, oh, I'm going to put it in as Dragon and time. Look at that. Perfecto. Okay. Then we do have featured content this week. And so that's all the questions. Here is the featured content from Dayrox. Learn about Drakaria and get free eggs. So essentially, Drakaria is very active on X, formerly Twitter. I recommend this channel. It is Drakaria World, and I will open that up so you can see it. Go to Drakaria World on X, right? They are preparing for a quiz, and there probably will be multiple quizzes, and I think there might even be multiple quizzes if and when we open other socials. I imagine we'll have an Instagram later too, but who knows? I have no idea. TikTok, right? Probably TikTok. Let's see here. You can demonstrate your knowledge of Drakaria and win free first edition eggs. There'll be gateway keys, which will be for the first season, and that'll be really interesting. Joe said he wants to reward those who have been interested in the project from the very beginning. I can't remember if I said that or not, but he used exactly these words: before the hype, because when they publish pictures of dragons, there will be hype. That's the truth. I do think that when you guys see what the dragons are, it's amazing. And the fact, maybe even more so when you see multiple of them, because the variety is noticeable, extreme. They're beautiful. They're amazing, amazing dragons. The eggs look amazing, but they're nothing compared to the dragons. Truth. There is still some days, so read the white paper. If you can read the white paper, ask questions about it. That's why it's out there, because we want you who are here to understand that more than anyone else. Number one, so you can help others understand it. But number two, so that you can benefit from understanding it and, be in there first and, have some glory, right? Because you deserve it for being here. I will be doing it. Luckily, I have some free time. I hope we can get free eggs, but you have to prepare for it. If you don't have an account on X, then create one, if only to participate in the contest. I wish you the best of luck. That is a great post. Dayrox, I'm going to put like 10 grand in that. That's awesome. So thanks a bunch for that. That's all the AMA and featured content. So sorry, I was long. I hope that's okay with everyone. But make sure you go subscribe to Drakaria. We need as many people in there as possible, spreading that. And make sure you get to the Dragonchain.Store. Look at the crest hoodies and stuff and mugs and everything else, right? I'm wearing a shirt right now. And if you have the ability, do go to legalfund.dragonchain.com and donate now. And if you go in, you can make a one-time donation with a credit card or Apple Pay or Google Pay, or you can make a recurring donation. I think you can even pay with other forms. Like I think we even have some of the like Alipay and stuff like that in there, as well with crypto, right? There's a full, very simple way, and it's all signed. So before you send anything in crypto, do please check the proof signature down at the bottom. Make sure that you're not looking at someone else's site and send it to some other address. And that signature should be from at the very end of it is FBFB0, right? So, you can look at that here in the video. Here, I'll make it really big, and you can make sure that. Sorry, it kind of scrolled out of my way there. So you can read that. That is the address. We should probably post that. I'll talk to the team. We should probably post that on the Dragon Chain Twitter as well, so that you would have a totally, other than this video, a total out of band way to verify the address before you verify the signature, before you send anything in. Anyway, that's a long bit of stuff there. That's everything. So make sure you watch us again next week. Super happy Dragon Lucky. It'll be 78. We're almost out of the 70s. I'm going to be sad when we are because we waited a long time to get here. Also, make sure you watch the World Blockchain Roundtable today in about 19 minutes at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC. Follow Dragonchain, Real Denizens, and Jojo Row on Twitter. On LinkedIn, if it matters. I don't know if anybody's on LinkedIn anymore. It's kind of a weird place. And Den.Social, obviously. I'm Joe on Den.Social, but anyway, follow us there. And that's everything. So I'll see you in a few minutes on the other show. Okay, what was I going to play here? I'm gonna here's what I'll play. I will play. It's gone. There it is. All right. Sorry, I'm running the whole show right now, so apologies for that. Thanks a bunch. Talk to you soon.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.